Hi, today we're going over the Excel Project 3. When you go through the class in Ferris Connect, when you get to Excel Project 3, you'll see that there's a link to go to pearsonsmyitlab.com. When you go over to My IT Lab, you need to go to Excel, then you need to go down to Projects, and then when you click on Projects, it will take you to a screen that shows the 4 projects. We're going to do Project 3 today. So when you go down to Project 3, the first thing it asks you to do is select A17 through C20. Then to name that, so you can right-click and go down to Define Name, and you're to name that Table, T-A-B-L-E, with a capital T. We click OK. Next, you're to go over here to F4, and you're to do a VLOOKUP. So we go to Functions. We can then go to Lookup and Reference. We then can move down to Vertical Lookup, which is the last one, and we click OK. For a vertical lookup, the first thing that you're supposed to do is look up a value. Okay, so in the instructions, what it says is that you are to look up a function to calculate the APR based on credit rating. So if we look here on cell C7, we see that's where the credit rating is. Notice that over here it says excellent. It shows you what you're reading. And here it tells you what this function is doing. When we're learning functions, we should make sure we always learn what the function is doing, what the different parts are. Then it wants to know, where am I going to look it up? Where is the information I'm supposed to check? And so we want to look in Table. Notice as soon as I put in Table, over here it shows you all of the words that you're looking up in column 1. Then it shows the down payment percentage here and the APR, columns 2 and column 3. Okay, now it says column index. Well, we want the APR. The credits in the first column, down payment in the second, APR in the third. So we put in a 3. Next is, do we want it to be an exact match or not? So I'm going to say false, because I do want it to be an exact match. And I will now click OK. It shows the APR based on the credit rating is 3.25%. So according to F4, it says calculate the APR based on that. Include the range lookup for an exact match. Use range name for the first 2 arguments in the function. And so that is what we did do. In here we have the range name, credit rating, the range name table. Okay, so next. Says step number 4, in cell F5, enter a lookup function and formula. So I have 2 things here to calculate the minimum down payment required amount. Include the range lookup argument to ensure an exact match. Use range name for the first 2. So that's similar to what we just did in the function. And for calculations after closing parentheses. For example, a borrower who has an excellent credit rating is required to pay a minimum of 5% down of the negotiated price. Multiply the function results by the negotiated cost of the house. So what we need to do here is find out how many dollars is the down payment required. So if I hit equal, I can start a function, if I click here, this is the price I'm paying for the house. Notice it also put in a range name there. And what I'm going to do is multiply that by whatever percentage they have to put down. But now I don't know what that is. I've got to look it up. So now I have to add a function, and I'm going to again use the VLOOKUP. Now in this case, I am also looking up the same value as I did the last time, the credit rating. I'm looking it up again in table. But this time, I don't want the APR, I want the down payment percentage. So that's in column 2. But again, I want an exact match. And I click OK. If you multiply 5% times 375,000, you will get 18,750. So that is correct. Now, step number 5 says in cell F6, enter a formula to calculate the annual property tax based on the negotiated cost of the house and the annual property tax rate. Use range names in the formula. So again, I hit equal, and here's the negotiated price of the house, times, now I've got to find the property tax rate. Not there, not there, not there, not there. Oh, here it is. And so if I hit enter, that gives me 2812.50. Next, I need to know the annual PMI. So it says in cell AF7, enter an if function to calculate the PMI. So this time I have to go not to look up in references, but I need to go to logical, and I need to go to the if statement. Okay, so what is my test? Well, it says here the borrower's total down payment required and additional is 20% or more of the negotiated price. Multiply the cost of the PMI avoidance percentage, or PMI is 0. If the PMI is 0. So if the total down payment is less than 20%, the borrower has to pay the PMI. So we have to calculate it. So this is one of our more complex formulas. So what is our case here? We want to see if the down payment, so the down payment they're making is the minimum down payment plus the additional down payment. And I'm going to put those in parentheses because I want to make sure that happens first. And then I want to see if that is greater than and I'm going to put a parenthesis again, the negotiated cost of the house times the down payment to avoid the PMI. And then I'm going to have a close parenthesis. So in this case, it's saying it's false because this is 20% of this would be something like $75,000, and we're only putting it down 18,000 plus 5, 23,000. So if it's true, if this is greater, total down payment, PMI is 0. So that's nice and easy. But if it's not, what we have to do is figure out what it is. And so that says we take the PMI rate. So PMI rate, here it says PMI rate, and we multiply that by, and if I look here, the amount of the loan by the PMI rate. So the amount of the loan is what? Well, the amount of the loan is the cost of the house minus, I have to put another parenthesis here because I have to do this first, this, the down payment, plus this, the additional down payment. So that will then give me the value. And somehow I got a quote mark in there. Okay, so let's see what my error is. If open parenthesis, down, I know I have so many. Let's close that one. So minimum down plus additional down is greater than cost, avoid PMI in brackets, cost minimum down. So I do that comparison, 0, else the PMI rate times, PMI rate should not have those around it, times the cost, minimum down, maximum down, additional down. Here. Okay, I paused that for a minute to look and see what my corrections were, what my error was. And when I put this down, I'm not sure which I had, but I evidently had one parenthesis wrong. So it should be equals if parenthesis, minimum down plus additional down, close parenthesis, greater than, open parenthesis, cost times avoidance PMI, close parenthesis, comma, 0, comma, PMI rate times, open parenthesis, cost minus, open parenthesis, minimum down plus additional down, close, close, close. So what we do now is we need to know math to do this. We take this and add it first, and then we subtract it from here. Then we multiply it by this. We multiply this by this. We add this to this. We look and say, when we've added these two together, is it greater than this times this? If it is, do 0. Otherwise, do this. And when I click OK, it's not 0, it's 1756.25. That's the PMI. Okay, now next we have to go down to cell F10. Okay, and when we do that to F10, and we're trying to figure the total down payment. Okay, and what the total down payment is, the formula to calculate the total down payment is the sum of the minimum down and any additional down. Now, I'm not sure why they're doing it this way, but we just did this total down payment. It was in the formula we had up here. Minimum down plus additional down. So this is fairly easy to calculate. Just put an equal sign, and the minimum down payment required, and then the plus sign, and then the additional down, and we hit enter. Now how much is the amount of the loan? So this is now 8. So step 8, we again, fairly easy. How much are we borrowing? Well, we have to pay this much, but we only had this much to put down. And I hit the underline instead of the minus sign. There we go. And if I hit enter, that shows me how much I borrowed. Now I need to know the monthly payment. So we're on step 9. And so in step 9, it says go to F12, enter the payment function. So I have to go here, and payment function is a financial. And we go all the way down to payment, PMT. Payment and VLOOKUP are two formulas. You must know what is in those formulas. So the rate, well, where's the rate of interest? Here's where the rate of interest is. So we've got that there, but there's one problem with this. We always tell the rate per year. For our formulas for payments, we must have the rate per payment. And so I need to divide that rate by the number of payments per year, which is over here in C14. So that shows me a lower interest rate. That's because it's the rate per month. Next is the total number of payments. So that we're borrowing it for 30 years, but we are not making one payment per year, so we need to multiply it by the number of payments per year. 30 times 12 is 360. Next is the present value. This is the one weird thing to me, is if you want the payments to be positive numbers, you must make this negative. So it's negative, and the present value is the amount you're borrowing. Future value is 0, so we leave that blank. And it doesn't say anything about the payment being made at the end of the month or beginning of the month, so we're going to just assume that that's okay. So we click OK. There's our monthly payment. Now we need our monthly property tax. Well, again, that's fairly easy. We have the annual property tax, so we just divide it by 12 to get the monthly. Monthly PMI, again, same thing. We have the annual PMI, and we divide that by months. Now, you look and it's the same. Why? Well, because I, here for the property tax, used PMI, not property. So now I've changed that, and it's now correct. So the total monthly payment is what? Well, let's see if this works. We're going to use the auto sum feature. And that says F10. Well, F10 isn't right. I just want 12 through 14. So I'll change that to 12. You can either type in the F12 through 14 or do it this way, however you want, but you're summing F12 through F14. Now, what is the date of the last payment? Well, that one is a little mixed. And what that says, if you read in the step number 13, which is what we're on right now, it says that we enter the eDate function. So I have to go here again, and a couple of things we could do. One is we could type in here eDate and then go to see if we can find it, and there it is. So we could click OK. And we have the start date. Well, here's the date of the first payment. And then we have number of months. Well, number of months was number of years times payments per year. But then it also wants us to subtract 1. Now, I don't put this in parentheses because I want to subtract the 1 after the multiplication. And so then when I click OK, it shows April 1st, 30 years later. Okay, now we've now finished step 13. We're on 14. Display the range name sheet and paste a list of range names starting in cell A2. So we have to go over here to range. Now we need to here put in the range name and the locations. So we go up here to formulas. And over here, use in formula. And down to the last thing here is paste names. And then we paste the list. That now shows up here in A2 through B18. Okay, so that finished 14. We're now on 15. Set the width of the column A to 12 and B to 22. Couple of ways you can do it. The way I usually do it is I go here and move it to 12. Problem with doing it my way is you have to be really precise in moving it, and sometimes gets difficult to do that way, but I still prefer to do it that way. So that's how I'm going to do it today. So if I can get to my 22, there we go. So now I've got my 12 and my 22. Okay, so that's the end of 15. Now 16, create a footer on each worksheet with the text exploring series. Okay, so what we do now is we need to put a header and a footer on everything. So we go to home, and over here, we go to insert. And over here is header and footer. We click that. And now we have a header and a footer. Well, what they want is only the footer. So we move down here to add a footer. And we have 3 parts, the left side, center, and the right. So what it says is now we put the text on the left side, we put exploring series. Make sure you capitalize them. The sheet name code in the center. Well, where do we get the sheet name code? Go to Header and Footer Tools, Design. When I pull down Design, we want, again, on this, the sheet name code. Here's the sheet name. I don't see anything that says code, so I assume what it means is this is the code it wants that's going to put the sheet in here when we print. And over here, we do the same thing, and we have file name. Okay, so now we have 16 finished. Now it says ensure the worksheets are placed in the following order. Payment first, and we have payment first. Range name second, that's second. So we now save the workbook and close it. Exit Excel and submit it. So when I save this, I can save it as anything I want. So I'm just going to click Save. And then I'm going to exit Excel. And now I'm going to check to see how well I did on this and see what my percent grade is. When I put this YouTube up, I will also let you know what I got on it when I submitted it.